This is INCRadio DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to New Jersey Satellite Studio, where we show you the flavor of life here in the District of New Jersey. Hey everyone, and welcome back to INCRadio New Jersey Satellite Studio, where we show you the flavor of life. And for today's flavor, pack your bags and come fly with me, or take a train, walk around, take a boat, or my favorite, which is take a road trip, because we will be talking about travel tips, and we have a special guest, someone who's a professional in the industry. Now, Leah, which is your favorite way to travel?
You didn't mention bus, Jeff, although that's not my
Oh.
favorite way to travel. You can't take a bus to Europe. That would be a dream. I like the train. If I could take a train everywhere, just because everyone has a big window normally, if you have a window seat, there's lots of things to see. Uh, I mean, airplane's the fastest, but it's also like the most squishy. Like you're just smushed in. Even if you're in like first class or business, just being trapped in a small space.
So
I
true.
think I'm telling on myself too much, but yeah, no, whatever's the most efficient for me is the best way to travel. Wherever I go, I want to get there fast, safely. So whatever that is, that's usually an airplane.
Oh,
Oh,
very true, very true. That is
yeah.
the most efficient way. And our guest speaker, our and she's a really good friend, so it's cool. She comes from that industry. So I think we can just jump right into the topic. So Leah, what are we talking about today, and who do we have with us?
Well, she is a corporate trainer with American Airlines. She's currently residing in Fort Worth, Texas, but originally from Anaheim, California, all the way from another time zone. Is it the central time zone? I can't do math. I don't know how many hours Texas is behind us. We have Arnie Jane D joining us. Hey, Arnie, thanks so much for joining us today. I know it's a little early for you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's not early. I got to get up anyways because I got to do my show next.
Right. Everyone can also find you on the South Central Stage Show. So we're going to go ahead and get started because we always have so much to talk about here. So we're going to just get started. Can you tell us a bit about your background and how you got into the world of travel?
So even as a child, we did a lot of road trips and I was fascinated with going places. And I actually wanted to be a flight attendant back in the days. But back then you had to have a minimum height requirement. And I did not meet that minimum height. That was before equal opportunity. Okay.
Oh,
And so,
no.
yeah.
Me too. Oh, I couldn't lift. I couldn't lift 50 pounds.
Oh, see, I could lift the 50 pounds. I was just not tall enough. And so I couldn't do the whole flight attendant thing. So then I got real jobs and had a real career and everything. And so I was doing corporate training for my previous jobs. And because I like to travel so much, my uncle had worked for the airlines and he says, you need to get a job. And I'm like, they don't pay us anything, and I got my degree and I'm using it for my career. But after a while, the whole traveling thing won. And so then I ended up being an agent for the airlines. And then recently I finally got into the training department, which is what I like to do. So now I'm actually a trainer training all the new hires that come in through American Airlines.
When you say agent, are you the person who's at the table when we come and go, hey, this is my flight, and you check our travel documents? Is that
yes? So checking in at the ticket counter, getting you on the plane, scanning your boarding passes when you go onto the aircraft. So things like that. So that's what I did for a while. And then I decided, and that's why I moved to Texas, is because our headquarters is here. And that's what got me into a position at headquarters. So,
Wow, that's so much fun. And it, viewers and listeners near and far, it also goes to show that, you can have your plans. You might not be able to make it, but, God will make a way for you to, have a job that you like. And if you can just see the smile on Arnie's face when
yeah.
it's so awesome. And that's also why we brought Arnie, that's why we brought you on. You're just like a bubbly firecracker here of information. It's so awesome. Okay.
Thanks.
So for those who are new to travel, and I'll admit, I used to be, kind of hesitant to travel. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to book. This was before, they just made things easier, and it's just going to get easier with all the tools and stuff that we have. For someone who's new to traveling or might be a little hesitant, might want to get their, dip their toe into that ocean. What's the first thing that they should think about when planning a trip? And also, what inspires you on where to go?
I think for me, when I first started traveling, I always wanted to see places I've never seen, like the Sydney Opera House. You always see that in movies, you see it in different things. And so I was like, I want to go to Sydney. I had no idea how long I would be on the plane, right? But that was something I do. And so when I see things in a movie or when people talk about places they've been, and I'm like, oh, I think that's something I want to do. For example, like, everyone knows about the canals in Venice. And so I was like, oh, I have to make my way there. And so I just think of places I want to go to. And then I'm a nerd, so I do research. Whether if I know people haven't been there, I would do the research and I will try to find out like what is there to do, how's transportation, because not everywhere you need a car. There's so many places you can go to where you can go on public transportation and get everywhere, and it's going to be more cost effective also. And then that's the other thing I look at. I look at the exchange rate. I look where our dollars will get us far. Because not everyone can travel bougie and have the 5-star hotels and things like that, right? And so I look at places where I know our dollar's kind of strong so that the conversion rate would be good. So that's how I usually look for places to go.
Wow, I didn't even think about Leia. Like, how about you? Like, on your end, how do you start planning, and what inspires you where to go?
So my first international travel was actually to Europe. It was my post college, like my graduation trip. So I'm with Arnie on this one. Like whatever you see in the movies, you're like, oh, I want to go there. It looks super cool, and things like that. Those are the places that I put on my list. Now, can I afford to go there? That's a whole different story. Because also, I consider language. Like, can I learn enough conversational language in order to ask for instructions, but also understand them, because that's the most important part. Like if you say, where is this thing, and then you don't understand left and right, then you're just going to be lost. So, but that was before we had so much technology, and we had to print out, this is the time we had to print out things. So that's how I pick movies, and also from books. I'm a bookworm, so anything that was featured in a book, like a historical thing that's super interesting, that's how I pick. And
But
I'm with Arnie on the money thing too.
yeah, but for those who are watching, you know, don't let the language thing be a barrier, because a lot of the places I went to, I didn't know the language. Now, before going to Italy, I did learn Italian, just the basics of Italian, only because I think that it's such a beautiful language, right? But don't hesitate. Like when I first went to Japan, I was scared because I don't know Japanese, and their characters, they're not letters. But if you notice, like even with their public transportation, they do have the characters like kind of in English so that you could read it. And when you look at the maps and everything, it's pretty easy. Just like the subway stations in New York, right? It tells you where it stops and everything. It's the same thing. And so as long as you know where to get off, it's fine. And I take advantage of the people in Japan. The people there are so nice. You ask them, hey, how do I get here? They will take you there. They're not even just going to show you what train to get on. I had a person who got on the train with me, got off where I got off, and then got back on the train to go back the other way. So it's not like that was her stop. And so, a lot of people out there are really kind. And as long as you're not doing anything to invade their country and be rude, they're going to help you.
So you asked them in Japanese. You didn't use a translator app or
Oh
anything.
no, I asked them in English. So actually, I just had a picture because my whole thing of going to Japan was I wanted to go to Tokyo Disney, right? So I showed them Tokyo Disney, and I was like, "Which train am I taking?" And like I said, she couldn't speak English, I couldn't speak Japanese, but we did it by pointing and doing things where, hey, we got through. So don't let language be a barrier.
Yeah, just I guess gonna say you just have to be prepared to get lost and
Yes.
have to not be in a rush. So how far in advance would you recommend people start planning their trips? And
So
also, if you can let us know, do you use any apps or recommended websites, or do you use like, your credit card? Well, you work for American Airlines, so you probably like a whole travel thing.
yeah, well, it's all different. So depending on where you're going, if it's international, of course, you do want to plan ahead because the main thing that's really important if you do anything international is you have to do research. You got to figure out one, do you have a passport? Can you go? Is your passport valid long enough that you could actually enter the country? And what documents do you need? Do you need a visa? With like the US passport, we pretty much can go to a lot of places without a visa, but that is something you have to research because one of the things that's been hard is people say, oh, I'm going to go to Paris. And with Paris, you have to have your passport that's valid at least 6 months. And if your passport's going to expire within the 6 months, they're not letting you into their country. And so those are the things you have to do. Now, domestically, it's easy. I could do last minute trips domestically. It's not a big deal because I'm the adventurous type where I won't even book a hotel, until I probably get there or, things like that, because I'm the type that I do plan, but I also like spontaneous trips. So depending on if it is going to be like an expensive trip, that is where you really do need to plan ahead and figure out like how much you need, the documents you need, and how are you going to get there. And so with you were asking, so with a lot of the airlines, they have loyalty programs, and so do the credit cards. And I'm not saying rack up debt, okay, but they do have credit cards that give you good deals. And if you are disciplined enough to, let's say, be able to pay it off at the end of the month or do it so that you're not in debt, the credit cards, they have a lot of advantages because they do hotel discounts, and then you could rack up points and everything. So there's some credit cards that are promoted by the airlines where you don't even have to fly and you'll get status with the airlines because it's what we call swiping. As long as you're swiping that credit card for your groceries, for your rent, for anything, you're going to rack up points where you can get free trips. You can be in business class for like $11 because all you're paying is a taxes just because you were swiping that credit card. So you want to look for credit cards that actually have benefits and not just, a credit card that's going to give you credit. You want to try to find something that gives you some type of benefits, whether it's hotel, air. The ones that's really good is the one that does it all, where you can spend points on air, hotels, and rent-a-cars.
Wow,
Wow. Yeah, seriously.
that's but that's a lot of research as well. You know.
It is. It is. And there's a lot of chat groups, whether on social media and everything, where people share their ideas. So don't do all the hard work. The legwork has been done for you. You just have to know what channels to go to find these different things. So I have a friend in California. That's all he does, and he's got a page on Facebook, and he's got a lot of followers, and everyone gives their input. Oh, this credit card gives me this and this and this, or this credit card does this for me. And so it's like a whole community of people who love to travel, and then that way they share each other's experiences, and then also where you can go to get deals and things like that.
That's awesome.
That really is. And as a matter of fact, speaking about deals, what are some realistic ways to set a travel budget, actually stick to it, and any other advice on how to save money in terms of travel? Because I know that's one of the reasons why it can be hesitating. Like, oh, a trip over here is going to cost so much, but there are ways to get discounts or get that budget smaller. So, what's your advice on that?
Like for me, as a child, I learned how to save because that was something that my parents had taught me. But I have, even though I'm single, I have two bank accounts. Okay, I have my regular bank account where is my everyday rent and all that stuff, right? And then I have another account that I cannot touch. So usually with credit unions, that's not something that's easily accessible. And so I have a credit union, and that's my vacation account. And so I would put a portion of my paycheck into that account. And then that's where I would go every time I want to go on a trip. So as long as I've got the funds in there, then I know I can go. And then the other thing I do is, let's say I've already planned out my trip, I've got my hotels, I've got everything. And now I do set a budget for when I'm there. And the way I do that is by cash. I have a certain amount of cash in my hand that I will, convert when I get there, but I will not spend more than that cash. If I'm spending more than that cash, then I'm done with my budget. So yeah. So that's what I do.
Wait,
Because
so you don't convert your currency before you go to that country.
no,
You take your
no.
cash and you convert it there.
Yes. If you could,
Hmm.
especially if you go to the airports here, if you go to like your major airports, go to JFK, and then all of a sudden you're going to convert your cash, you're not going to get a good exchange. Okay. Because here they don't need dollars. They got dollars here, right? And now they have to give you foreign currency. So it's better to have cash. And then once you get to the country you're going to, so even if you change some money, let's say you land in Rome, right? You want to go ahead and change it to euros, but you don't want to change all your money at the airport. You just want to change enough to get to where you need to go. So maybe to get a train ticket, that's all you want to exchange. And then once you get to the city, they've got money exchanges everywhere. And it could be in souvenir shops, it could be just a stand, and they're very competitive. So you look at who gives you the best price, and that's where you want to convert your dollars. Now, for those people who are scared to travel with cash, you can also set a budget for what your credit card is. But if you're going to use your credit card in a foreign land, do not pay in dollars, because when you swipe your credit card, it's going to ask you, do you want to pay in euro or do you want to pay in dollars? You want to pay in euros. You want to pay in that country's currency, because then now the exchange rate you're going to get is going to be way better than if you were to do it with the dollars. And also, if your ATM doesn't have like a foreign exchange fee, or it doesn't have like a bank usage fee and things like that, you could withdraw money from the ATM at the foreign land, and the exchange rate is going to be way better than what you would get if you were to change money here in the US. So yeah, always do your exchanges there, and always pay with their currency when you're charging. And then that way you get a better rate. And then that makes, that makes your money go a little bit further.
Yeah, I totally agree on that ATM. Like I had to actually research, where do you get the most value for your dollar exchange. So yeah, definitely check out your bank's international rates. And sometimes some credit cards also charge a transaction fee.
Yeah.
So
So you got
yeah,
to look at those.
yeah, because
And
those add
that's
up.
why, even like, let's say your bank charges you $3 for a transaction that you're going to do overseas, which is fine, because guess what? It's just a $3, but then you better take out all the money right then and there. Otherwise, you're going to have to keep taking money out. And so that's why you got to plan out like how much you're going to have and everything. And one thing that's what I like to do is it's not a fanny pack, but it's like a little belt that you can put around that's very thin, that you
Oh, the
put
money
under
belt.
your
Yeah.
clothes. Yeah, because some people are scared to travel with so much cash. So that's one of the things that you can do. And then that way it's not in your purse, it's not in your pocket. Because, most countries are safe to travel to, but you just never know. There's always, the very few who talks about getting pickpocketed and things like that. So just, do your research and be careful, but don't be so careful that you're going to be scared to go anywhere.
No, that's true. Okay, so well, we're always talking about money, right? So we're like focused on how do you stretch your dollar, your hard-earned dollar. So we talked earlier about finding apps or tools. Well, you recommended going to discussion groups on the different social media platforms, especially if you know where you want to go. I think if the more focused your research is, the easier it'll be to go. So when it comes to accommodations and flights, there's a lot of thoughts about this. Is there a best time to book? Like someone always told me you should always book your flights on Tuesdays and Saturdays, but also try to fly on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I mean, is that true? Is there any like discounted, or like you have to book a month ahead? If you book a month ahead, you'll get a better rate than if you book 2 weeks ahead or
That's
6 months
it's You
ahead.
know what? A lot of it is dependent on demand. Okay. So technically, actually, I've seen it better when you book on a Sunday, because nobody books on a
Wow.
Sunday. Yeah.
Wait,
Whoa.
And then
book like complete your transaction on Sunday, or are you
Mhm.
traveling on Sunday as well?
No, you book your travels on Sunday. And then you try to want to stay away from travels on a Monday and a Friday, only because if you know, with the in the business world, most business travelers will travel on a Monday and a Friday, right, to start off their week. They're not going to travel on the weekend to go to a work job unless they really have to. So try to avoid flights on Mondays and Fridays. Now, when you book your flight also depends, because if you're going to a popular destination, booking it like more than a month in advance is fine. But when you book out 6 months, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have a better deal. I found deals where I booked it 2 weeks in advance only because no one was booking a flight. There were so many seats open, and then they're going to lower it. A lot of the things you want to do is, and you also want to go do your research. Don't stick to one website. Let's say everyone says, oh, I always just book everything on Expedia or Cheapo Air or things like that, right? You have to really look for different places. There's not like one go-to place, because on some places you'll get deals and on other places you'll get better deals. But just be careful, like if you're not going to the actual website of the airline or the hotel, read the fine print, because some of the things that mess people up is, let's say they'll go to a third party and they'll book a flight and they think they picked a seat for that flight, and then they get to the airport and says, oh, I paid for a seat. Like, no, you didn't, because you didn't do it on the airline that you're flying on. So let's say you book on a third party, and let's say you're going to fly an American. Now it's time for you to go on American's website and choose your seat that way, because these third party people, they don't know what type of aircrafts we operate. They don't know if we're on a 737, on an Airbus, and things like that. They have a generic map of a plane that has three seats, and then an aisle, right? They don't know what types of aircraft we operate. And so sometimes people are thinking they chose a seat. But in the very fine print, it says these are suggested options.
Oh
They're
no, that's awful. That's
yes.
why I know some of my friends, they book on Priceline, and
Uh-huh.
that's the thing that makes you nervous. So it's like, yeah, you get like a $15 whatever, but then it's like 7 flights later, then
Yeah.
you're there.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's why whenever you book with a third party, always go now to the website, because once you're in the system, you can access your flight on that company's website, and then you can see exactly what you're getting. Because some people said, oh, I already paid for bags. We're like, no, you didn't. I don't know what you paid to Expedia, but you did not pay for bags. And so those are things you want to look at when you're doing your research, because the fine print is really important that nobody reads. They just like click next, 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 and then buy. So those are things you have to look out for.
Yeah, I actually, when I go to like two or three third party, it's like Orbitz, Kayak, and I don't remember the third one. Whatever,
Mhm.
whatever they recommend, right? And then I'll
Mhm.
go back and cross reference with the actual airline and the actual hotel to see if the airline or the hotel have a better deal. Because there are some
Exactly.
hotels, especially if you're going to a very popular destination, if you sign up for the rewards program, you get so many discounts, and
Yes.
it's, yeah. But my
And
question to you is, would you recommend booking, like on those third party sites, booking your airline and hotel at the same time? Because you know how sometimes they give you a deal, it says, hey, or car, would you, or do you recommend booking those separately?
so for the rental cars, I don't mind doing the third party because you're not paying in advance. Okay. With the hotels and the airfare, just be cautious, because if you do book on those third parties, and if they tell you it is a non-refundable, non-changeable ticket, they can charge you up to $300 just to change your ticket. As opposed to the airlines, if you book directly with the airlines, even if it's non-refundable, as long as you're part of their loyalty program, they will allow you to make changes. And then the only thing you may have to pay would be the difference of fare. So if it originally cost you 100 and the new fare is 150, then you would only pay the $50. But the third parties, they will have a change fee, anything from $100 to $300, just to make changes. And then, like, even with a hotel, so let's say you chose a king size room, and all of a sudden now you're going to have friends and you want the two queen beds. If you booked with that hotel, that's something that they can change. But once you've already paid it through the third party, they could say no. And so that's why I trust the company's website more. But sometimes the deals are better with a third party. So you have to see where it weighs out. But when you join the loyalty programs, they do give you, like, points so you can get free nights. But the thing is, now you have to be loyal to that brand. If you go to different brands, it makes it a little bit harder because then you don't get to rack up as much points. So I stick to one brand, even though, it's hard to find a hotel, but I will stick to that brand only because I know I'm going to get points and I'll get my free nights.
No, yeah, for sure. For hotels, that's really important.
Wow. All right. Now, it's so funny. We're just having such a great conversation, but I think it's time that we start our landing procedure. Please stow your tray tables in their department, and please raise your seat. Seat-
The full upright position, right?
Full upright position. See,
And turn off,
seriously,
but don't turn off your electronic devices. We want you to
yeah.
stay on the show.
we want you to stay on the show. Okay, but we got a couple questions for you left before we wind down, and before we land. Okay, so Arnie, so what's one piece of advice that you wish every traveler would follow?
One is do your research. Okay. The worst thing you can do is think you're going to go to another country and you spent all that money and you cannot go. So, one is do your research. Two, when you go to that country, you are not an American. Okay. You have to embrace that country. If you go there feeling entitled, well, this is what we do in America, they're not going to like you and they're not going to be nice. Now, if, even if you only know how to say hello in that language or thank you, it's going to go a long way for them to help you. But if you're like, oh, do you speak English and insist on that? But at least if you say, bonjour, no, or, hola, ¿cómo estás? Things like that. And then they'll start to speak to you in English. So one, that's not your country, so don't act like it is. And then the other one is don't be afraid to go places, even if you're by yourself. Because if you're always going to wait for someone to travel with, you may never go to that place. There's a lot of places that are safe for single travelers because a lot of the traveling I've done is by myself. So, don't be scared. Experiencing the different cultures and just the different food is so good. For example, you like Japanese food. You think Japanese food here is good? No, it's not. Go to Japan because I guarantee you the food's going to be even better, right? And that's the thing. I will go to different countries for food because it's just so good. But don't be scared to explore and be adventurous. That's what I think. What I would say.
Wow, that's okay. Rolling into our last question because we do have to go. We're basically over time. what are your top 3 travel destinations?
See, that's really hard because for me, I've just been exploring like Europe. I will always find somewhere to go in Europe.
If we narrow it down to this year, we only have 6 more months
this year.
Yes.
I say Japan is a good time to go right now because right now the yen is very low, so our dollars go really far. And there's a lot you can do in Japan, whether you're in a city or into the country. So I think Japan's a good one. Europe right now, their euros are also pretty low. And so for us to do the dollars would be great. And then I think the other one, if you're going to go domestically, I would say biased to this, but I would say New York, only because, public transportation, great pizza, and lots to do, whether you want to just chill or if you want to do a lot of activities. So that's what I would do for this year.
And if you're ever in Texas, go visit Arnie if she's at home. She might
Yes.
Doesn't sound like you're ever at home.
I try.
Well, it's like it would be hard to have pets if you're always traveling, unless you're taking your pet with you.
No, I got rid of my pets. My plants all died, so I'm done with plants.
Understandably. So we actually are out of time. We hope to see you again for more travel tips, maybe specific regions of the world. But before you go, do you have any shout outs or greetings?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me on your show. It's always great to be able to talk to you all. And for all the viewers out there, keep watching INC Radio New Jersey. And if you guys want, stick around, INC South Central States.
What time is your show?
We're at 11:30, so 12:30 your time.
12:30 our time. All right. So we actually do have a number of viewers who are chiming in the live chat. So if we can get our shout out bumper. I forget what it sounds like.
I'll wait for the one with the bubbles.
Is it the bubbles?
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy birthday.
Congratulations.
I have to shout out.
Mom, dad, best friend.
All right, Jeff, going to you first for your shout outs and greetings.
Okay, got a simple one. Happy birthday to my auntie, Tita Toning, Antonio Blanco from New York, which is a great travel destination. So if you need tips, find out from them.
All right. So from our live chat, I'm sorry, they're still putting in their comments about tips. No one had any questions, which is okay because we're out of time. So we just want to start off with our greetings with a belated happy birthday to Brother Bernard Guerzon. That's from Michelle Rizzola in Philadelphia. But happy belated birthday, Ka Bernard. All right, and we also want to say hello to our always first greeting, Mario Oka, all the way from Brixtonville, Calooca North. I think that I already memorized his location. We also want to say hello to Ulysses Amali from the local Vallejo district of Northeast California, Priscilla Batan from Rizal. Also from Marites Francisco and her husband Alex Francisco. Good morning, and also good morning to Sister Zam. Let's see. Of course, Joseph. I always have a hard time with his name. Joseph Palabrica from Philly. I hope I said that right. All right, and also from Shay Diane Appalachia, she loves the window seat and check Google flights. I don't know. I don't know if I trust Google that much. I feel like they're a little biased. Also from Flo Guillermo, I learned my lesson to not book third party for hotels I couldn't cancel or make changes after. Oh no. And hello also to Melby Tamayo from Central Valley, California. And hello to Ahmad Walid from Winslow. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I know we have a lot more, but we got to move on to our next segment. Tossing it to you, Jeff.
All right, and on for our hashtags, no bumper needed. Honorable mention is CNJ. Congratulations, CNJ. In third place, we have the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, which is also a great destination to travel to. If you need a tour guide, Brother Ahmad in the chat, feel free to message him. He was our tour guide. Awesome. Also, Sister Naima. Shout out to them. All right. In third place, we have Aston, which is also close to Philadelphia, but is in South. Wait, Aston? No, that's close to Philadelphia. But anyway, it's in Pennsylvania. So, congratulations, Aston. In our first place, we have Winslow in South Jersey. So please go visit there. Also, over to you, Leah, for activities.
All right, we have one activity for this weekend. It is the Married Members Monthly Meeting. So don't forget to attend. We always get nuggets of wisdom from our church administration. All right, next up, our CFO in action.
CFO in action.
The CWS members in the District of New Jersey Church of Christ gathered for an engaging meeting focused on effective ways to reinforce good behavior in kids. They explored practical strategies for encouraging positive behavior through interactive discussions and relatable examples. The young participants learned the importance of self-reflection, empathy, and kindness in promoting a supportive environment. This meeting taught them how to foster good behavior and build strong relationships with peers and mentors. The meeting concluded with a sense of enthusiasm and commitment among the children to apply these valuable lessons in their daily lives. As everyday life increasingly relies on digital and online devices for common tasks, cybersecurity is essential to safeguard sensitive information and ensure safe online operations. To educate the students on the importance of cybersecurity, a district CBI cybersecurity seminar was held in the locale of Bayonne to inform both students and brethren how to be safe online. Led by Sister Leia Henarao, an IBM cybersecurity consulting employee, taught attendees through tips and lectures how to navigate their online information safety. All those in attendance enhanced their understanding of online security and united once more with the activities launched for the CFO organizations. Led by Assistant District Minister Brother Ruben Bustos, the brethren in the District of New Jersey continue to be united in all the activities launched by the church administration. This was our CFO in action the past week. From the District of New Jersey, this is Sister Marisol Dagaton. We'll have more on the CFO in action next week. See ya!
And we actually have more from Marisol. We have a preview of next week's episode.
I want to answer some questions from Team Live Chat about the carpal tunnel syndrome. First off, the question of Brother Jeff Fernandez, he asked if acupuncture can help with carpal tunnel syndrome. So I am not an acupuncturist, but studies have shown that acupuncture can relax muscles, it can improve nerve function, and it can also reduce swelling and inflammation. So there's studies that have shown that acupuncture can help relieve the symptoms of CTS. Sister Tamara asks if a squishy ball can help with carpal tunnel syndrome. Most definitely, Sister Tamara, using a squishy ball can help strengthen your grip. But you know, squishy ball is very light resistant, so you can use it in the beginning stage. As your grip gets stronger, you want to be able to progress to more tension kind of gripper, like like the hand grippers that you can buy at different resistances. But you can always start with a squishy ball. That's a good place to start. So Brother Bernard asked two very interesting questions. His first question is, will washing your hands after like playing the piano or doing other activities that involves using your wrists, will the warm water cause carpal tunnel syndrome, or washing your hands will cause carpal tunnel syndrome? There is no correlation between carpal tunnel syndrome and washing your hands with warm water. I think it's an old wives' tale, but to my knowledge, there is no relation to it. And his second question is if one of the parents have severe carpal tunnel syndrome, will the child or the children get carpal tunnel syndrome as well? There is a genetic predisposition for carpal tunnel syndrome, but it's not always the case. Genetic predisposition meaning if it is in your genetics that some people have very narrow carpal tunnel, then you can pass it along because that's in your genetics, your anatomic variation. If you have smaller carpal tunnel, then most likely if your child acquires that trait as well, he has a small carpal tunnel also, then yes, he could get it. Or if it's not really genetics, but if your family lifestyle, whatever your lifestyle is as a family, if your child practices the same, then he can have carpal tunnel, but not for that aspect, not really because of the genes, but because of you have a similar lifestyle. So I hope I was able to answer those questions from our live viewers.
And thanks, Marisol, for the follow-up. And also preview of next week's episode, because we are going to get more tips from our physical therapist and residents. Now, we actually are over time, so thank you to everyone who joined in today's show. We hope you learned something new from the pro tips that Arnie gave us. And once again, Arnie, thank you so much for joining. If you found value in our discussion today, please like and subscribe for more content like this. And if you think this episode would be helpful to someone you know, please share the link with them. And if there's a topic you'd like to hear about or want to join us on the conversation for, please feel free to reach out.
And before we go, we'd like to thank our church administration for their continuous support to INC Radio and allowing us to have this show where we can learn together and stay connected. We especially thank our beloved Executive Minister, Brother Eduardo Manalo, and our Deputy Executive Minister, Brother Angelo Manalo. We'd also like to thank our INC Radio Station Manager, Brother Wally Turan.
And before we say goodbye, we again thank everyone for watching and joining in today's show and taking the time out of your day. And we hope you enjoyed. We hope you go out and enjoy your travel. See you on the next episode of INC Radio New Jersey.
Bye, everybody.
This is INC Radio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ, or Iglesia ni Cristo.